guys. Okay, so we're up again for a new video. So today, what we're gonna talk about is Article 457. So Article 457, it says that to the owners of lands adjoining the banks of rivers belong the accretion which they gradually receive from the effects of the current of the waters. So ano ibig sabihin nito? So yung mga may-ari ng lupa na nasa tabi ng ilog, river. River in Tagalog is ilog. Kung saan nagkaroon ng accretion o yung accumulation ng soil na gradually, ibig sabihin gradually, hindi bigla-bigla. Meaning paunti-unti nagkakaroon, di ba, pag merong river, so nagdadala siya minsan ng soil, sediments, so nagkakaroon siya ng lupa paunti-unti. Tapos naiipon yung lupa. So yung may-ari ng lupa, nakatabi ng river, nadadagdagan yung lupa niya ng paunti-unti, gradually, yung effect ng current waters. Kung sino yung may-ari ng lupa, na nadagdagan siya ng lupa na paunti-unti doon sa tabi ng river, sa kanila yon, siya yung may-ari nun. Halimbawa, yung bahay nyo, nakatira kayo sa tabi ng river, tapos merong lupa, tapos paunti-unti na napapansin nyo na lumalapad siya. Dahil nadadagdagan siya ng lupa paunti-unti. So, lumalapad yung property nyo. So, magtatanong ka ngayon, amin ba to? Dahil nadagdagan siya? Dahil parang lumapad. So, may karapatan ba ako dito? Pwede ko ba itong angkinin as my property? Dahil nasa lupa ko naman. Napadpad naman siya sa lupa ko. Meaning, nag-increase yung size ng lupain ko. Saan ako nakatira or kung yung pagmamayari kong lupa, kahit hindi ko tinitirahan, dumami na siya. Lumapad na siya. So, yes, sa inyo po mapupunta yon. So, may karapatan po kayo doon. Dahil, yun na nga, dahil sa Article 457, sabi nga, to the owners of lands adjoining the banks of rivers belongs, meaning sa kanila nagbibilong, yung accretion, meaning nadadagdagan yung lupa, nang gradually nilang gradual lang yung pagdagdag ng lupa, syempre, from the effect of the current of the waters, hindi pa pwedeng sinadya. Hindi rin pa pwedeng babigla-bigla. So, gradually. So, when you talk about Article 457, always remember, gradually, yung pagdagdag, yung accretion, doon sa land. So, yung may-ari nun, yung owner. Alright? So, meron tayong forms of accession, which is the natural. Dapat natural. Hindi pa pwedeng sinadya or any kinds of other means. We have alluvium, avulsion, and the change of course of rivers and the formation of islands. So first, we will define what alluvium is. So when you say it, alluvium is the soil deposited or added to accretion, the lands adjoining the banks of rivers, and gradually received as an effect of the current of the waters. Yon. So, by law, the accretion is owned. So, sino magmamay-ari nun sa batas natin, sa civil code dito sa Pilipinas, ay yung estate, kung saan yung lupa na nandun sa harap ng riverbank, siya yung may-ari nun, kung saan napunta yung lupa, dahan-dahan siyang napupuno. Ang tawag dun is alluvium. Okay? So, if the river bed gradually changes, so rules ng alluvium will also apply. Kasi minsan yung riverbed, nag-change din siya ng course dahil nga may running water siya. So, rules din ng alluvium ang mag-a-apply doon. So, we will be discussing the technical differences between alluvium and accretion. So, accretion, what is accretion? Accretion is the process whereby the soil is deposited, while alluvium is the soil deposited on the estate fronting the riverbank. The owner of such estate is the riparian owner. And accretion is a broader term because alluvium, strictly speaking, applies only to the soil deposited on riverbanks. It is possible that a soil deposit be made also on the banks of lakes. In this case, although it is an accretion, it is not called alluvium, although the rule as to ownership is the same. So Article 84 of the Spanish Law of Water states accretions deposited gradually upon lands contiguous to creeks, streams, rivers, lakes, by accessions or sediments from the waters thereof belong to the owners of such lands. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to talk about what are the essential requisites of alluvium. So number one, the deposit should be gradual and imperceptible as a process. So just like what I said earlier, dapat gradual siya. Hindi siya pabigla-bigla. Yung pag-deposit ng soil doon sa land nyo should be gradual. So that's alluvium. And the cause is the current of the river. And not due to works or expressly designed for the purpose. So hindi sinadya. It should be, the cause should be the current of the river. And another one is current must be that of a river, if a lake, under the Spanish law of waters must apply if the sea, the deposit belongs to the state. So dapat, the current must be coming from a river, not from a sea. Because if it's a sea, it belongs to the state. Ang nagmamayari ay ang gobyerno. Okay, and the next, the river must continue to exist. Otherwise, if the river disappears, the Article 461 and not Article 457 should apply. And next is the increase must be comparatively little and not, for example, such as would increase the area of the riparian land by over 150%. So, naturally, common sense naman na, syempre, pag gradual yung increase, hindi yung ganun kalaki. Kasi kung malaking-malaki, ibig sabihin sinadya yun. So, maliit lang talaga yun. Hindi siya ganun, hindi siya 150% increase in the land size. Okay? So, we have here note, it is not necessary, however, so hindi naman daw necessary na yung riparian owner should make an express act of possession. The accession being automatically his the moment the soil deposit can be seen. Okay? And then, that the riparian owner has completely paid for the value of the riparian estate in case of purchase, as long as he has already the equitable or beneficial title. So, hindi kailangan na bayaran na niya lahat. Halimbawa, binili pa lang niya yung lupa, kasi hindi pa niya fully paid. So, it doesn't necessarily needed na kailangan fully paid before niya before siya magkaroon ng ownership doon sa alluvium na nangyayari doon sa lupang binili niya kahit hindi pa fully paid. So, yun ang ibig sabihin nun. Reynante versus CA, or Reynante versus Court of Appeals, it was mentioned that accretion benefits a riparian owner when the following requisites are present. So, number one, that the deposit be gradual and imperceptible. So, just like what I said, I will put an emphasis in the deposit should be gradual or imperceptible. And then next is that it resulted from the effects of the current of the water. It should not be man-made, but from the current of the water. And then lastly, that the land where accretion takes place is adjacent to the bank of a river. So, just like what I said earlier, always remember na yung land na adjacent, nakatabi dun sa body of water, dapat ilog. Hindi siya dagat. Okay? So, failure to register the acquired alluvial deposit by accretion for a period of 50 years, subject said accretion to acquisition through prescription by third person. Yon. So, pwede siya ma-acquire ng ibang tao through prescription pag hindi mo siya pina-register. So, you have to register it in a period of 50 years. Okay. So, we'll go to reasons why alluvium is granted the riparian owner. Yung riparian owner, siya yung owner ng land na kung saan nagkaroon ng deposits, yung alluvium. So, ang tawag sa kanya riparian owner, parang naging owner siya nung gradual deposit of soil to his land, which is near a river. So, ang tawag sa kanya, again, riparian owner. So, bakit daw ginagrant yung alluvium dun sa riparian owner? So, we're gonna answer that. Number one, to compensate him, para makompensate daw siya dun sa loss that he may suffer due to the erosion or the destructive force of the water and danger from floods. And then, to compensate him because the property is subject to encumbrances and legal easements. And also, the interest of agriculture require the soil to be given to that person who is in the best position to cultivate the same. And the next, since after all it cannot be said with certainty from whom the soil came, indeed, the identification of previous owners is impossible. It may just as well be logically given to him who can best utilize the property. So naturally, if the soil was gradually being deposited on your land, you cannot question from whom that piece of soil or land that was added came from because it was being added gradually. So, hindi mo na maki-question yun. So, talagang mapupunta yon sa owner ng land. Ang tawag sa kanya, riparian owner. So, I'm gonna be citing an example of a case, Quezon versus City of Manila. A house near a river was enclosed by a high wall, which protected the estate. Should the alluvium immediately outside the wall belong to the owner of the house? So, the answer is no. The alluvium here does not belong to the owner of the house or land because the reason why alluvium is allowed by the law does not exist here. Because the presence of the wall hardly makes possible any loss from the waters that the estate may suffer. Hence, the alluvium cannot be given to the owner of the estate. So, what does that mean? Dahil nga daw may high wall, so common sense, how can the land be deposited on your land if it's being separated by a high wall? So, the answer was no. So, the alluvium did not apply to that owner of the house or land. Because the reason why alluvium was allowed by the law did not exist in that case. So just take note of the case, or you can read the case Quezon versus City of Manila as a reference. By the way, I'm using the book of Paras. Bloopers. I'm using the book of Paras. This is actually an old book, 16th edition. So okay, so let me clarify this. That yes, accretions, Article 84 of the law of waters, accretions deposited gradually upon lands contiguous to creeks, streams, rivers, and lakes by accessions or sediments from the waters thereof belong to the owners of such land. Alright, so kanina I was a bit confused because I just read this topic last night. So if it's the sea, it belongs to the government, so it does not belong to the enumerated bodies of water such as these creeks, streams, rivers, and lakes, and by accessions or sediments from waters thereof, yung accretions, yung nagde-deposit siya gradually dun sa lupa nyo, dapat yung lupa nyo, katabi siya ng creek, or ng stream, ng river, or ng lake. Yun. Papupunta yun sa inyo kung lupa nyo yun. Tapos nag-deposit yung soil gradually, paunti-unti, at medyo lumapad yung pagmamay-ari yung lupa, nakatabi ng river, katabi ng stream, katabi ng lake, or katabi siya ng creek, at mapupunta po yun sa inyo. Yun ang ibig sabihin. Accretion on a sea bank. So, let me talk about this. Kasi kanina nga, yun yung minimension ko na pag sa dagat. So, neither Article 457 of the Civil Code nor the Spanish Law of Waters of August 3, 1866 can apply here because accretion on a sea bank is neither an accretion on a river bank or a lake bank. Yun nga. Hindi naman daw kasi yung accretion sa sea bank, hindi naman siya included, hindi naman siya river, hindi naman siya lake. So technically, hindi siya kasama dun sa batas. So Manila Bay is a sea. So on this case, Manila Bay was the issue. So Manila Bay is considered daw as a sea, dagat daw siya. Kasi hindi naman siya bay. Pero ang tawag lang sa kanya ay Manila Bay. For a bay, it's just part of a sea. So, being a mere indentation of the same. So, thus accretion caused by the action of Manila Bay still belongs to the public domain. Yun yung sinasabi ko ang public domain sa property law. If you are a law student, I'm pretty sure you're aware of what public domain means. Meaning, hindi mo siya pwedeng mabenta kasi hindi mo siya pwedeng hindi siya pwedeng ma-acquire ng isang ordinary person unless i-declare siya ng government natin na pwede mo na siyang ibenta. Hindi na siya pagmamay-ari ng government. Hindi na sa kanila. Yun. So, I'm gonna be talking about loss by alluvium. It is not affected by the registration under the Land Registration Act. So, here we have a case. In one case, yung isang lupa na pagmamay-ari nga ng isang riparian owner, covered siya ng torrents title, nag-diminish naman yung sa kanya. Gradually diminished. While yung land naman dun sa opposite bank, gradually increased. Kumbaga, magkadabing lupain sila dun sa river, sa side niya nababawasan, dun naman sa kabilang side is nadadagdagan. Yun. And the reason for that is only the current of the river. Dahil nga dumadaloy at dumadaloy yung tubig dun sa ilog, yung sa kanya nababawasan, dun naman sa kabila nadadagdagan. So, inalleged na yung registered owner ng land na nadagdag dun sa opposite side ay sa kanya pa rin. Still remains his by the virtue of the torrent certificate of the title. Upon the other hand, the benefited owner countered, ito naman si isang party na nadagdagan ng parte ng kanyang lupa ay nag-counteract naman siya na walang protection na na-offer yung title against Alluvium. So, ano ang decision ng Supreme Court is that nag-render siya ng judgment against the registered owner. So, sinabi sa kanya, it's actually the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the opposite owner kung saan nadagdag yung lupa. On the ground that accretions of the character of alluvium are natural incidents of land bordering running streams and are therefore not affected by the registration laws. So please check Payatas Estate Improvement versus Tuazon, 5355. Register pa yung title dun sa lupa at nabawasan na yung lupain mo at yung nabawas na dun sa lupain mo, gradually napunta doon sa kabilang lupa, dun sa isang parte ng river na meron din isang lupain. It doesn't mean na sa iyo yun dahil naka-register sa iyo yun. Dahil gradual yung pag-increase ng lupa na yun. Yun lang, dahil gradual. Hindi mo siya pwedeng maangkin kasi unti-unti siyang nabawas and it's due to the current of the river. Parang natural yung process. So it is thus clear that if a portion of land protected by a torrent certificate of title is lost by alluvium, the registered owner is not protected by the registration. He loses the said portion. So sadly, hindi niya na pwedeng maklaim yun. At saka, ba't mo pa i-claim? Eh, kung maliit lang naman na part ng lupain mo, di ba? Parang, parang common sense, i-claim mo pa ba kung konti lang naman? Kasi gradual, ano lang naman yun eh. Hindi naman ibig sabihin a big chunk of your land na nawala sa'yo, di ba? So, I don't think some people would actually go through the hassle of claiming such a small part of the land na natanggal sa kanila. Siguro meron, ibang ganun, pero for me, parang it's not worth the hassle. Di ba? So, another one is that, upon the other hand, an alluvial deposit does not automatically become registered land simply because the lot which receives it is covered by a torrent's title. So, halimbawa, doon naman sa kabilang banda, kung yung nadagdagan ng lupa is covered by a torrent's title, kumbaga tinitulong lupa na siya, tapos nadagdagan siya ng lupa dahil nga dun sa alluvium, gradual deposit of the soil to that land through the current of the river, hindi ibig sabihin na protected din yun. Hindi ibig sabihin na parang kanya na agad yun. Pero, although the owner of the land on which the alluvial deposit is made becomes automatically the owner of the said deposit. So, ibig sabihin, pag mapunta na yun sa'yo na. Basta gradual yung deposit. Pero parang hindi ka protected just because it was already registered. So, the law, not requiring any act of possession on his part from the moment the deposit becomes manifest, still ownership of a piece of the land is one thing, and registration under the torrent system of that ownership is quite another. You still have to register it. Yun lang yun. So, ownership over the accretion received is governed by the Civil Code, and imprescriptibility of registered land is provided in registration law. In order that said alluvial property must be entitled to the protection of imprescriptibility, the same must be placed under the operation of the land registration law. An unregistered alluvial property is therefore subject to acquisition through prescription by third persons. So later, on my next videos, I'm going to be talking about unregistered alluvial property na subject siya ng acquisition through prescription by third persons. So, ibang usapan yun. Pag may ibang taong nag-occupy dun sa land deposit, dun sa lupa mo, na gradual, third person yun. Kasi hindi naman ikaw yun. So, iba yun. Third person. Yon. So, I'm going to be giving you an example of another case wherein a subdivision plan of land obtained by accretion not enough to make the land a registered land. So, please take note, Republic versus Heirs of Luisa Villa Abrile, L-39248, May 7, 1976. So the facts is a parcel of land with a torrent's title was adjoining a river that eventually dried up. So the lot owner claimed that the dried up riverbed was his by accretion kasi yung river nag-dry. So nung nag-dry, claim niya. So we drew up a subdivision plan that included the riverbed. The plan was approved both by the Land Registration Commission and by the CFI, that is Court of First Instance, ngayon ay Regional Trial Court na. And the two titles were issued, and there being two parcels in the subdivision, state now sues to have the subsequent title over the riverbed cancelled. Can cancellation be made? Pwede daw ba ma-cancel? Sabi ng Supreme Court is yes. For to make the former riverbed come under the torrent system, the ordinary approval of a subdivision plan is not sufficient. So just because it was approved that the subdivision was actually to be made on that land na nag-dry up, yung river nag-dry up, tapos nagkaroon siya ng more land, tapos nagtayo siya ng subdivision plan which was approved, parang it is not sufficient. There must be a judicial application for the registration of the land. So it still has to do that process. So take note of that. And here, subsequent to the original registration under the torrent system of a parcel of land bordering a river, its area was increased by accession. Having been acquired subsequent to the registration proceedings, the additional area was not included in the technical description appearing on the certificate of title. May such additional area be acquired by a third person through adverse possession? Why? So this is what I'm talking about, that a third person or another person na wala sa issue, bigla-bilang umappear at gusto niyang i-acquire. Through prescription, tumira siya dun, tinayuan niya ng bahay. Pwede daw ba? The answer is yes. For a while, the additional area automatically became the property of the owner of the original parcel by accession. Still, the said area did not automatically become registered land. So you still have the obligation to register that piece of land that was added to your land. Yun. Hence, the same may be acquired by prescription of a third person. So there's a case. You have to read it. Grande et al. Versus Court of Appeals et al. Yun. So that's it. That's how nice the law is. So, let me do a recap of what we talked about today. It's Article 457 that the owners of the land adjoining the banks of the rivers, where the accretion happens, that they gradually receive from the effects of the current of the waters, it belonged to them. Yun. So, iba yung pagkakasabi sa batas. Medyo, maarte. Pero yun yung ibig sabihin nun. Na, yun. So, please take note, Article 457. So, tatagalugin ko, Article 457, yung mga may-ari ng lupa na nakatayo doon sa tabi ng isang ilog na nagkaroon ng accretion, nag-gradual lang. Accretion meaning nadagdagan yung lupa gradually, dahan-dahan, na na-receive niya sa pamamaraan ng current ng waters, daloy ng tubig. Sa kanila yun. Siya yung may karapatan. Siya yung may-ari. Yun. So that's it. I hope you learned from me guys today. Guys, thank you for watching my video. Again, what I talked about was Article 457. I hope you learned from that. Maybe it's a bit long video, but I just read it last night, and these are the current topics that we're studying right now, because I am currently a second-year student. And if ever I have explained something that is not right, please don't hesitate to correct me, for I am still a student of law, and I have a dream of becoming a lawyer, and I do believe, and I've actually believed in what I have heard and read, that if you want to learn something, you have to teach them, and if you teach them, you will be able to learn them twice. So if ever this will be a help to any other students, why not? So I think it's a good tool for me while I'm learning. Well, when other people will find this helpful, then that's good for them. And I hope you do learn from my video today, and please do like and subscribe to my channel. And thank you, God bless, and I'll be making more videos of the next topic that I'll be reading. Thank you, God bless, bye-bye!